It's 7 o'clock, May 30th, 2018. I'll call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council Committee to hold to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
We have a quorum. First item of business this morning is a discussion on a refuse truck, and I'll call on Guy Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Looking for your recommendation to the council to purchase a refuse truck. We were originally intending to purchase this truck in this calendar year. In working with the vendors, we found out that there's a backlog of trucks nationwide. So we're not actually going to take this truck into our fleet until next year, just because of the backlog. So we're seeking your recommendation to the council for this purchase, and then also surplusing the unit number 222 that will be traded in on this unit. It's a 2012 Freightliner that we're going to be trading in, and a 2019 Freightliner that we will be purchasing with the New Way refuse equipment. It's the rear packer type refuse truck that is used in the commercial recycling route, just so you have a picture. The truck will be trading, obviously we'll be keeping it in service through the year, so the miles and hours that I've listed here will obviously go up, but the dealer has given us credit for that, and it's reflected in the trade value. So the end purchase price will be $112,680.96. And that's after a credit of $45,000 for the trade and $62.85 for discount from the NJPA. So with that, it's just a recommendation to purchase that refuse truck.
Any questions from the council? Jim?
I'll second
Scott? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Guy. Second item on the agenda is railroad crossing replacements, and I'll call on City Engineer Brian Navarro.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good morning, members of the council. Back in August 2017, the council initiated the railroad crossing surface improvement project that consisted of addressing the rail crossings at grade crossings located on Freiburg, just north of Lincoln Avenue, and also another one, Broadway North and Beach Avenue West. Since then, submitted a letter of intent to the local rail authority. Just recently, they had prepared an agreement that I've included in your packet that's consistent with what the initial letter of intent was and some of the estimated costs. However, there is about two little additions. They're looking to replace the rail crossing located on South Mill, and also looking to remove the spur line that serves the depot at the crossing located there on Freiburg. If you can recall, that one consists of a main line crossing along with a spur one. So from 2016, they removed that spur line on the Cascade Street Improvement Project. So I believe they're considering removing this additional one too as well, which I consider a great benefit. Just similar also to 2016, they're proposing to install the precast concrete surfaces. They're about the most durable rail crossings, and we've done some price estimates on rail seals, which are the next best, I guess, for considered type of treatment. But in my opinion, the precast concrete ones are the recommended way to go. So in the interim, if this agreement is acceptable to the city council, we will proceed and execute this agreement. We'll also be reviewing our utilities beneath these crossings. Logistically, I'm not sure based on our needs, but we will attempt to see if we can introduce and bring some more information back to the council depending on the rail authority's schedules with this project. I anticipate this would be completed this year. However, that's up to the rail authority to make that determination. I'll give you an update at this time. So I'm requesting authorized staff to execute the Otter Tail Valley Railroad construction and maintenance agreement that's included in your packet to initiate this project.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions of the council?
Get it done.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Justin.
I'll second, Your Honor.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
With same sign, that motion carries. Thank you. Brian, you're up again for item number 3, which is an EAW for the Regional Treatment Center.
Yes, so thank you. Since we've received the architectural historian report from Rolf Anderson for the RTC campus, we believe now we have enough information to start submit to the Environmental Quality Board Monitor for the EAW for Phase 2 of the RTC building demolition or deconstruction project on the campus. The monitor has some scheduled guidelines. It's required to be a mandatory 30-day public comment period. We believe we plan on publishing the EAW on June 11th with the EQB monitor, and because of the 30-day comment period will be ending July 11th, 2018. Similar as the past EAW did for Phase 1, conclusion of this, we'll be setting a public hearing. I'm requesting this council set a public hearing for Tuesday, July 17th, 2018, from 5 to 7 p.m. That is a Tuesday, just following the council prior morning. The intent of this public hearing is to discuss all the comments received through this 30-day comment period through the EQB. There will be a brief presentation at 5:30 at this public hearing meeting, and representatives from the city and Stantec will also be there to answer any questions and report back to the city council with it. So at this time, I'm requesting 2 things: authorization to submit the Phase 2 environmental assessment worksheet to the Minnesota EQB. And the second one is to set the Phase 2 public hearing date for July 17th, 2018 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you, Brian.
We will do that in one motion?
I think we can. Thank you, Jim.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Brian. I guess we'll find out later today the fate of the bonding bill where that $3.5 million for Phase 2 is located. So, all right. Any other questions of Brian? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Brian. Amy,
Are you introducing or?
item number 4 is an H2M update, and I'll call on Amy Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. With us this morning are 2 representatives from H2M, who the EIC began communications with last fall and ultimately entered into a contract to look at creating a community brand campaign to help elevate the community and highlight the positive attributes that we have both from a business perspective, a residential perspective, to highlight opportunities for newcomers to come in and show our existing residents, both business and individuals, that we are a great place to live and do business. So that was the basic foundation, but I'm going to turn it over to H2M to talk a little bit more on the work that's been done to date. And if you recall, so the EIC board has been reviewing on a monthly or bi-monthly basis the progress of that community campaign. The city council did also enter into a retainer agreement in late 2017, and some of the work that's been done through that will be highlighted by H2M today as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to James, who's been our primary project manager.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm not used to this format, so stop me if there's anything I'm doing incorrectly. I had a presentation, of course, the computer is rebooting and restarting at this point. So if you don't mind, I have handouts for everybody, and we can go through this document together.
Thank you, sir.
And then I also want to be respectful of time, so how much time do we have here as a group?
We have as much time as we need to go through it and
Okay,
answer questions.
okay. So I do want this to be more of a conversation too, so at any point, if I'm rushing through this too fast, or if there's any questions, by all means. Obviously, there's no motion to necessarily make, it's an update. So again, we'll have time at the end to answer any questions. So I'll go through this fairly quick, but again, pause, stop me if there is any questions throughout. So as Amy stated, there was two agreements set aside in regards to H2M. The initial was through the EIC, where we were able to set up a discovery and go through that in the months of December with the team as far as internal, external issues, what we see as a city of Fergus Falls, and how we can, what would success look like from a community marketing standpoint. So that was the initial setup in December. From there, in the next few months, we continued those conversations, and a strategy was discussed, updated, and approved by the team, both EIC and city staff. March, objectives were put into place, and we set a timeline. And actually, June will be a very busy month. We'll get to that here on the back side of the document. But that's where we looked at objectives, both on the what I'll call the business side or the city side of things. Decreasing the community attrition that has happened over the last 12 to 18 months, attract businesses and residents, and create community ambassadors. One of the things we also learned from the initial discovery meeting, I'll just call it brands, but there was many brands or names out there that work with the city. So the last thing we wanted to do is create another name or brand that confused community members. So from there, what we learned is that we were going to retool and refocus our efforts on Forward Fergus Falls. So that was what we wanted to create with coming to the consensus of not only a process of communication, but also a community campaign that served as a rally cry. So internally, that's what we called this. We needed a rally cry to get community members and potential community members behind the city of Fergus Falls and seeing what great place this is. 3 words that came to mind when discussing that was inform, unite, and excite. So those are the 3, again, they may come through in the external marketing, but internally those are 3 words we've really leaned on in the past few months. So we looked at Forward Fergus Falls, and that's a very general term. So we wanted to focus on 5 areas so that if we did need to get specific, we could. Arts and culture, we all know thriving communities lean heavily on arts and culture, lean heavily on business, education, recreation, and wellness. The tactical development of this was creating awareness and driving people to Forward Fergus Falls website, social media, and that's in the works now as far as getting that, I don't want to say back up and running, but at least at the forefront again. So if we turn to the backside, the initial goal was to re-look at and rebrand what Forward Fergus Falls is all about. So the new logo development, this is the we'll call main logo, but we created multiple logos and basically a package to work from not only Forward Fergus Falls, there was a Minnesota tagline, as well as the other 5 elements we talked about on the front side. Again, like I mentioned, June will be a busy month here. In the next 4 to 5 weeks, we will actually be filming a video Monday and Tuesday, and I want to thank everybody involved in that, including Gene, on getting community members and business owners rallied behind this. I think everyone we asked said yes, so that's exciting. Everyone is on board, and we will be filming that on Monday and Tuesday. From a contractual standpoint, a dollar standpoint, we're putting 90% of the resources that you as a city council are giving us, H2M, throughout the 10 months, $15,000 towards this video, because the city has done great for us, not only as a business, but other businesses and county that we work with. So again, we're putting a lot of resources into this video, and that will be launched at the June 14th event. So that's really when we'll start gaining traction from an external standpoint with the dollars you guys have given us throughout this year. Other elements of marketing that we'll be using to launch this campaign in June include print, billboards, radio, and then a heavy hitter And I know a lot of people aren't used to this, but social media is a huge marketing tool nowadays. So again, we'll lean on that heavily. Other discussions and conversations we've had is having gatherings. You know, let's get the community behind this and learn more about Fort Fergus Falls and the positive things going on in the community, no matter whether it's business or recreation, wellness, what have you. So those are other conversations we've had. But again, Thursday, June 14th will be the big day to kind of bring this to the forefront and keep moving forward with Fergus Falls and the Fort Fergus Falls group. Other conversations moving forward is what does campaign sustainability look like? Because we don't want this to be a one and done thing. This should be a long-term goal. Because again, I think changing the mindset and the rally cry of a community takes time, and we all know that. So the sustainability is another conversation we've had of how do we as a group, the EIC, City of Fergus Falls, and H2M come together to keep this going, not only throughout this year, but in future years as well. So some things we've looked at there. Other additional items we've considered and we'll keep looking at is forwardfergusfalls.org and just refreshing and updating that, as well as joining other community events as a sponsor. So Forward Fergus Falls becomes this umbrella campaign no matter what's going on in the community. It supports everyone. And then too, we don't want to forget, so there's a lot of things going on internally too that we want to help the city with. So not necessarily PR wise, but just looking at things from an external and outside perspective. And those things are listed here with editorial. We wrote that in December, and that's been used in EIC press releases. We have done print ad designs. We will continue to do any print ad designs the City of Fergus Falls needs. We help supply a press release contact list, and we'll keep that updated. And then proofing all the items you see there in regards to any copy and utilizing our team as a resource for the city staff here as well. And then to any brainstorming that may come up now in the future. One thing recently that we've talked to Amy and team about is just to buy local and entrepreneurship ideas and how do we get those to the forefront. So again, I went through that really quick, but I wanted to outline that as best as I could, and just what we wanted to make sure is that we're excited to see what comes to fruition here, not only in June, but moving forward in the future. And I'll open it up to any questions. I do want to introduce Brent Thorson. He is a colleague of mine at H2M's, and he works with the county. So I did want him here today too, because he and I work very closely together in regards to not only city, but also county items as well that H2M may help with.
Thank you, James. Questions, comments?
I had one. I guess on the front and back side, I put a star by campaign sustainability. Can
Yes.
you maybe just expand on that, just a little bit on how you plan?
Yeah, so, you know, talking dollars and cents. So right now, the $15,000, how we broke it up was you were paying H2M $1,500 a month, March through the end of the year. What we look at from a campaign sustainability is that it shouldn't end in December, whether H2M is signed on for another year or what that may look like. But we want to make sure that no matter what is supplied to, I'll just call it the Forward Fergus Falls group now because it is funneling all through Forward Fergus Falls, is that it doesn't just stop in December. This is a long-term plan that Forward Fergus Falls should live on for as long as you guys allow it. So it's utilizing the team internally to, if there's a new business opening up, having a Forward Fergus Falls ambassador go to that business and record a quick intro video and welcome them to the community, and posting it not only maybe on their own social media, but Forward Fergus Falls can share that and disseminate that. So again, campaign sustainability is just how does that look like from a resource standpoint, both internally and externally?
Sure, I can add a little bit on that conversation, Mayor, Councilmember Appert. So what we're looking at right now, and I'll take this opportunity to introduce Sarah Shaky. She's sitting in the audience today. She is a marketing intern who's working with the EIC this summer and is helping with some of the, especially the social media. But as we launch this, we are in the heavy mode this summer, so we're really appreciative to have additional capacity from a staffing perspective. But what we'll be looking at is, how many hours, what type of skills do we need in-house, or what can we look at contracting, or what services would be needed, how many hours does that really translate to on an ongoing basis once we get past this first initial launch piece. It'll be within the budget cycle, so that's a little challenging from the city's perspective. But that's part of that too, is how many hours do we need to be thinking about dedicated? What type of availability does that staff person or capacity, it may not be staff, how that would look. So that's part of that bigger picture as we get through this first piece. And we've asked H2M to help us think about that on, is it, an average of 10 hours a week? Is it 5 hours? Is it 20 hours? I mean, what type of time, whether again it's through a firm, a consultant, contract basis, or internally, do we need to be dedicating, and how do we do that from a staff alignment of what we have for capacity?
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I've got a couple of questions, maybe for, well, 2 or 3 questions really, but obviously Forward Fergus Falls isn't really affiliated to the city. I mean, it's a ad hoc group outside of the city, so we're creating a brand for something that we don't own as such.
I can add a little bit on
Just
that.
a minute.
Okay.
And then, and so I think, I'd like to know who owns this logo in the end, and are we going to copyright it? Just so that we, because if we're putting the money into it, then we need to control it going forward.
I can speak to
And
that.
I can talk to her too.
Yep, the copyright piece. So the EIC does own or control the social media, the website. That's been services that have been provided to the
Through a
the
grant from the
concept.
Brandon.
Yeah, yep. And so any grant funds that Ford Fergus Falls, as a loosely affiliated
Yeah.
thought, have ran through the EIC. So those components are, I'll say, owned by the EIC. And we did talk about that throughout this process, recognizing that the work of the EIC as, what it is, this brings another layer to it. That brand camp, it wasn't a branding initiative.
Yep.
This is just utilizing those existing words in a way that elevates it as that community brand campaign, because the thought, and James can maybe add to this, was this isn't just about the city as an organization, it isn't about the EIC as an organization, it's about our community, and how do we elevate our community together and have that umbrella feel over it versus creating something new. So
Yep, we wanted to look at the big picture and I don't want this to come off wrong, but make it non-political. We don't want it to be political, so slapping City of Fergus Falls name on it, yeah, the Fergus Falls is in there, but that was the reason we went with Forward Fergus Falls, is for the sake that it is all-inclusive and anybody can rally around it, and it doesn't need to be necessarily, it's indirectly helping the City of Fergus Falls as a whole. I don't know if that was my mic or not.
It wasn't yours.
I think it was telling me to be quiet. But anyways, that was the main driver, is to make it an umbrella organization or rally cry for the community as a whole.
And then are we going to copyright it, or are we going to?
We definitely can look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to, since it has been an organization or a group for a while. I mean, it costs money, I'm not gonna lie about that, so I don't think it's worth it, but
Yep.
something we can definitely continue in the discussion, yep.
Did you have another
No.
question?
Other questions?
Comments?
I was just, the June 14th event, can you tell us a little bit more about what that will look like and what kind of planning is going into that?
Mayor, Councilmember Roofer. So I made the notes. I'm like, oh, we haven't talked about that in detail, but that is the what has historically been the annual Forward Fergus Falls Community Celebration.
Okay.
It's taking a little different content approach this year and being around community building. That's the theme. There'll be items such as promoting an effort that is being coordinated to bring National Night Out to a neighborhood level, so neighborhood building in the community. And that'll be the first Tuesday of August, but with calls to action. So that's one example of an agenda topic that'll be talked about. And the call to action will be sign up to be a block captain to host a National Night Out party in your neighborhood. So that's an example. The highlighting the Grab-A-Bite program that a group of volunteers has launched in welcoming newcomers to the community, and there'll be business cards made that people can take with them and hand to new co-workers, new neighbors, new people within their networks who are new to Fergus Falls, so that we're being supportive and inviting of newcomers within the community. So those are just a couple of examples. So everything is being looked at, is trying to have a call to action or something people can do as a takeaway to build a better community. Another large component of the event beyond those kind of action type things will be a review of social media stepping back, but the other efforts that are happening from a regional level. We have Live Wide Open from the West Central region with West Central Initiative. Their staff will be there to talk about how the region filters down into the county. We'll have Eric Osberg from Otter Tail County talking about the efforts that they're working on, and then how that comes down to the city level. So funneling from how we work together to highlight the region, the county, and the city as being a great place to be, which we know it is. And then there'll be a little lesson around, maybe lesson is a strong word, a little discussion around social media and the value of liking, sharing, tagging, and then as mentioned, the end will be the release of that community video. So that's a little more on that event. We'll get more promotion out this week. That's our emphasis this week from a staff perspective, to support getting that word out through our various channels. So there is a Facebook event set up right now under Forward Fergus Falls, so please feel free to visit Forward Fergus Falls, like Forward Fergus Falls, indicate you'll be attending the event, and share the event within your networks. I'm not a social media person, so.
I got one kind of, that's all kind of great, but obviously one of the pieces going back to kind of the March discussion was decreasing community attrition. And recently, obviously, we had kind of another rumor that Fleet Farm was going to close. I spoke to the CEO of Fleet Farm directly, who assured me that obviously they're not closing. They're very disturbed about that rumor that's going around. And they're going to start, obviously, a campaign to say they're not closing. They're open for business. Sales are up. Things have been going extremely well. But we reached out, through various channels to the Daily Journal to help counter that. They're not very keen to do that. They don't want to do that. So I rang the CEO of Fleet Farm back again and put him in touch with the Midweek. And the Midweek are going to run some campaigns to counter that. But, is that something that ultimately you guys could help with? I mean, we have to stop the negativity in the community, that everybody jumps on this bandwagon that something's closing, and then, Dunham's is going to be next. Dunham's just signed a 2-year lease, so they're not closing. Nobody signs a 2-year lease if they're going to close the next day, or if it's in the forethought. We need something, a video about kind of like come and work, live, play in Fergus is great, but how do we start attacking back? The best form of defense is attack, and we need to start attacking kind of back again. That the businesses in town are thriving. Sometimes it's decisions that are made beyond Fergus Falls that closes it. Target wasn't a Fergus Falls decision. This store was profitable. It was a corporate decision in Minneapolis. Herberger's was a bankruptcy from Bonton. It got sold. It was a decision outside of the community. Dave Peters was a community one, it's a retirement, but, the Heedles, that was that was a purchase of one company, Auto Value to Heedles. They had 2 locations in one city. It was a corporate decision. But somehow we've got to get a message back out there stronger than we're doing. Because we can't rely on the Journal because they're not going to do it for us. So we have to do it.
Public relations is a tough game. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's not easy. And you do have residents in any city, it's not only to Fergus Falls, that hang on the negative. That's just, they're the loud ones. The negative ones are the loud ones. And unfortunately, sometimes you aren't going to change their mind even if you do tell them the facts. But I think, and I'm going to lean again back on Forward Fergus Falls, the main thing here is creating those community ambassadors that do tell the same message that you were just saying in regards to the good things happening in Fergus Falls, and that's boots on the ground and just talking through that. And yeah, you're not gonna win everybody over, but I think that is the defensive attack is work through Forward Fergus Falls in a non-political way to get these ambassadors out there from a community standpoint. I know that's not perfect and maybe not what you want to hear, but through a marketing campaign, that's tough, but that's what we want to do through Forward Fergus Falls is focus on the positive. And the video you will see comes across with all 5 of those areas. It doesn't focus on one, but we've also had the brainstorming of the local businesses and entrepreneurs and how we tailor some of the future possible gatherings around businesses and why businesses choose Fergus Falls over other towns and cities.
Andrew, did you have a comment?
Yeah, real quickly, Councilmember Hicks, I like the example of Fleet Farm, and I think it illustrates why the vehicle of Forward Fergus Falls is important. The Fleet Farm corporate social media pages have put out a statement already last week, and we as a city organization are unable to share that because we can't show preferential treatment or advertise for a specific business. But this umbrella organization, Forward Fergus Falls, certainly could help push that narrative and share that message and drive it even further. Whereas the city, we're happy to see that that's going out, but if we start sharing individual posts like that, we're going to be in a tough spot because then every business is going to want a little added traction. So I think that's a perfect illustration as to why this separate kind of vehicle is going to help us with this particular message.
And that message did go out on Forward Fergus Falls from the corporate.
Thank you, Andrew.
Just to piggyback on what Anthony said, as far as sending that positive message, I would challenge the EIC and other groups that work with the community businesses to maintain those close relationships with local businesses. And every time we see on the front page something along the lines of Bello Cucina closing, and I would challenge the Journal too to have 2 stories that say this manufacturer added a product line, or this organization added this number of employees, and so that we're ready to go when that negative news does come out. We can take some of the wind out of the sails of the people that are gonna want to mumble and grumble about that. Yeah, this happened, but these 2 great things are happening. So I would just kind of issue that as a blanket challenge to the the entities involved to always be focusing on the positive, make sure that we're ready with that positive message when negative things that are likely out of our control do come forward.
All right. James, Brent, thank you both.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5 is a discussion on city-owned property. And the liquor store on Amy Baldwin.
Mayor, council members, just wanted to bring this item forward as it has been discussed on disposing of excess land. And this is a piece of property that located behind the liquor store off Lincoln Avenue and the corner of Field Street and College Way, shown on the map that is on the screen and was in your packet. It is approximately 3/4 of an acre of land. It is one parcel with the liquor store, so we would need to refine that. So just wanted to bring it forward to see if there was an appetite of the city council to further define that parcel into a saleable lot as a standalone piece of land. and then potentially list it with a broker to get some additional traction on its availability. So I'm just looking for feedback or discussion.
I got it.
Scott?
Amy, when we break that off, would we be wise to split it to, I mean, you could sell it as one, but we also could sell it as an individual, because if you look at the lots next to it, where Radio Shack and where the Smith built, I mean, those lots are the same, you could make 2 lots out of ours, it'd be the same width as there, so is that something possible? Because I think when you split it, you only get one chance to do it.
Correct. Mayor, Councilmember Rachel's, it could be further subdivided if needed, but that's something we could certainly look at in creating 2, and then
Do it
if
right
someone
up front.
wanted both.
If you wanted to buy it both,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, the price would be this, you know.
Certainly.
Any other thoughts?
I missed it. I'm sure you said, how big is the parcel?
Approximately 3/4 of an acre.
And
And originally it was owned by the city. Was there plans for just as that property was developed?
Sure. So this, my understanding of the history is that this entire parcel was donated by Fleet.
Not the entire
No,
parcel.
not the entire. Okay. I'm
Just that parcel. We paid for the liquor store portion. They, Fleet Farm donated the other parcel to the city.
Right.
No restrictions?
There is, I was just gonna say that, it's getting, there are some restrictions that were included within the deed, and we've done that research with staff and the city attorney already. When that previous inquiry came forward, if you recall, last summer, we talked about an inquiry, it didn't proceed beyond that, but I felt, getting to a point of having a list price is certainly, that's the first question that gets asked, what is the price? So to get that outlined through evaluation assessment and then listed for a price would be advantageous to express its availability. And then certainly with the listing, any of those deed restrictions on a reuse would be included in the marketing.
Anyone have any objections going forward? and
Oh,
at
Jim's
least
got a
getting the list
question.
price and finding out
Jim
what-
has a question.
Oh, Jim, go ahead.
I take it we have no use for that land ourselves?
Correct. There hasn't been any identified use. We could certainly continue that discussion. It was looked at, I believe, now maybe I'll defer to Finance Director Sonmore again. Looks like he's ready to speak to the topic.
Andrew was just saying we should talk a little bit about what the intended use originally was. And so it was donated to the city of Fergus Falls for a future Chamber of Commerce, CVB building, something like that. Well, that's, the chamber is remodeling and getting their whole, new structure there. So that's why it's not then, we don't have it on our radar for use at the city. So just a little side
Probably not
note.
the best spot for a park, right?
I would make the recommendation that we proceed, obviously, down the road of looking to buy the lot, and I like Scott's idea of making the double split initially, and then we could go out with a RFP for kind of obviously a real estate broker. But I would also ask that on this RFP we shouldn't look for the cheapest broker in terms of commission, but they should be looked upon as their sales record is more important than the fee we pay them.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Item number 6, 2019 budget process overview. Finance Director Bill Sonmore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before you, I put a memo together, kind of updated last year's memo, just giving you the kind of the process we're going to go through for the 2019 budget. And as I look, I already have one typo. It's the 2019 budget process, not 2018. We're not going to redo the 2018 process. But on May 8th, I sent out notices to our city departments, so to let them know, let's get thinking about our budgets and start putting those together. Those are due back to me by June 18th, so we're looking at that. We'll be coming along pretty quickly here. Within that time frame, the departments will be preparing their areas. I've been working with Human Resources on calculating all the wage and benefit information. We do have 3-year contracts. So 2019 will be the second year in that contract, so we know where our wages and benefits are landing. So I'm building all those in, and we really won't be changing those then, since those are settled. So that'll save me some time this year too. Often we go through and calculate all that, and then as we hammer it all out, I go through and redo it again. So that's one of the benefits of having settled contracts from that standpoint. We estimate, of course, our insurance, utilities, equipment rental rates, all that stuff. We work with the League of Minnesota Cities, to come up with what our insurance estimate's going to be. Work with the various utilities to come up with those estimates as well. I do an annual debt service study. So all the debt that we have as a city of Fergus Falls, project that out through the life of each bond issue, and then try to keep those levies fairly stable so we don't have peaks and valleys with the individual levies for each one of those bond funds. So like I said, June 18th, those requests will be due to my office. And then between the 18th and July 20th we get that budget, a preliminary budget all put together. We have a tax levy committee made up of the mayor, the city administrator, and council member Appert this year. So then we'll start meeting to hammer out that budget so we can have a recommendation to come back to you as the city council at that first council meeting in September. The last couple of years we've presented at the first meeting in September and had you adopt the proposed preliminary levy and budget at the second meeting in September. We have to have that up to Ottertail County by the end of September. And then of course we hold our public meeting in December, that first council meeting in December, after 6 p.m., that's the law, so that the public can see that presentation and they can comment at that time as well. We've set some possible meeting dates. You can see there in July, looking at Tuesdays, meeting as the tax levy committee, and then running that through August. We'll try to come and give you, City Council, an update in the first meeting in August of kind of where the budget is looking at as we start to meet. And I did talk about those dates in September and December, and then we, of course, publish the budget in the Journal. That's a state law again in January of 19. It's a summary budget that we put together. So just wanted to lay this out for you. So certainly the tax levy committee will be considering those 3 items that you brought up as a council as far as goals, and I know infrastructure was your #1 goal. So that's one thing the tax levy committee is going to have to be going through. We've talked about our pavement management plan that's underway. We're in the process of that. So we'll be looking at putting together what kind of package can we do can we do a catch-up project, do some extra street work. I know it was brought up at the last council meeting. Can we increase annually what we spend as well? The 20% more in streets. So we're already thinking about that a little bit too. So if you have other things that you think of, talk to your tax levy committee members, let them know, or bring them up at council here, or contact me as well. So that's kind of what I wanted to go through, just kind of refresher of the process and that we're underway. So.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks,
Anyone
Bill.
have any questions for Bill on the process? Yes.
Well, I would challenge people to obviously be somewhat mindful of the fact that with the number of vacancies in commercial buildings, they're all going to the tax levy, the property tax, and looking for reductions, which means that the shortfall of that burden will get passed on to other taxpayers. So my challenge would be to try to come in budget neutral, if possible.
And Andrew, we brought that up at our department head meeting last week. We did say, we know we're in settled contracts, so we know our wages and benefits are going to be, and that's never cheap. So anywhere we can scale back or lean out things, please do so. So that's already been brought up at the department level.
It's a good job for Darren this year. Nice challenge for him.
I'm up for it.
Ben, I got one thing, Ben, Bill, when do we know about our insurance, our health insurance? 'Cause that's another impact that's on
We
it.
do not know anything
When
yet.
will we know? I mean,
August typically.
Okay.
So even when we come to you on August 6th is my goal to give you an update. And maybe that's, the time is so compressed, because I was going to say maybe that's a little early because we don't know that yet. However, if you go to the next council meeting, we're almost to the September meeting. So
we have to start something.
we'll still come there, but
Yep.
we go with estimates and then we refine them right up towards the end. So
Thank you.
What was the increase we saw last year in the health? Was it like 5?
actually, it was very minor because we implemented we've been scaling back our plans, so getting rid of the richer plans and put in a health savings account plan. So that was able, I can't even remember, but it was very minor.
It was less than 3%.
Okay.
Right, I think it was like 2.5 maybe.
2.5% is what I think.
So very good year last year. If we could do the same for 2019, that would be a huge win. So that's certainly on our HR departments. You know, Mike Hartwell is all over that. He's working with Lakes Country Service Co-op throughout the year on our health insurance. So it's a
Thanks.
big topic for us.
Bill, and one thing that Lake Service Co-op has done, they've banded with all the other co-ops in the state now. So they go out for one big contract. So it's gonna help to bring the increases down overall. I'm on that board that's statewide.
Good. Yeah, that's a good move because it helps level that premium out over even more people. So,
All right. Thank you, Bill.
okay, thanks.
Last item on the agenda is an encroachment issue at Godell Park, and I'll call on Jason Schuster. Are you gonna talk to this, Andrew?
Yeah, Jason, go
Jason?
ahead.
Jason?
Mayor, Council, we have, what I'm looking for is a recommendation from council on how to proceed with an encroachment agreement of a retaining wall at 1420 Brenway Drive. We have approximately 33 feet of encroachment of a retaining wall. We don't know exactly if that is the footage because we cannot locate any pins or parcel pins on that property. Talking with Ralph, we have three options. We can request to remove the encroachment, we can have an encroachment agreement, or we can sell a section of Goodell Park to the homeowner. What recommendations would you have to proceed with resolving this
But,
issue?
just to go over each of them, just gonna guess that removing the encroachment's not really practical. If there's a wall already built, then it's not probably agreeable to the property owner or the city. The selling city park is probably not gonna happen. So what you're saying is coming up with an agreement is the way to work this issue out?
You know, Your Honor, members, an encroachment agreement would essentially mean that the structure could stay until its life cycle was complete, which could be, you know, a long period of time if it's a well-built. I haven't been out there and seen it in person, but from pictures I've seen, the structure is well-built and would likely stand for a long period of time. So that's what you'd be doing with an encroachment agreement. The other real option that you have is to ask the property owner to vacate the premises and, you know, not force them to remove the encroachment. They certainly would have the ability to do that if they wanted to. But it could stay, the improvement could stay if the council, you know, was comfortable with that. And essentially at that point, it would become a public beach, or it is a public beach technically today if it's on city property. The public would be able to use that area, the portion of the area that's on the city property land. So, you know, I think it's important to note the property in question is currently on the market, and so that's why we wanted to help quickly resolve this issue one way or the other for the sake of the property owner, so they could decide what's in their best interest as things move forward.
So is the recommendation from staff to enter into an encroachment agreement, is that?
We're not making a recommendation at this time. It's simply wanting to understand what the appetite of the city council is. You know, my personal opinion is that it would be tough to sell parkland, and as much land as can remain in the public trust regarding Godell Park and the lake shore up there would be favorable to staff.
Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Didn't we, when we put together Noise Park, didn't we have them move structures that were actually in the park at that time?
We did.
So we would set a precedence by allowing this encroachment if we leave that there, correct?
But one thing to add, Jim, and I'm just reading the memo here. Sometime during the previous ownership of the property, there was the city moved a culvert, which, can someone explain that to me? Or Brian, do you have something to add to this discussion?
Sure. Mayor and Councilman, I own the property. My name is Brian Carlson. We've been there for about 14 years. We're maintaining the piece of property just as the previous owner maintained it. In about 2005 or 2006, you'd have to check your city records, but I requested a permit from the city to put that retaining wall in. They came out, they looked at it, they gave me the permit, I put the wall in. So I figured, you know, I had the right to use that wall in that area from the city at that time. But apparently that wasn't the case. And so now I'm in the predicament, I have a very large retaining wall there. And, you know, we are in the process of trying to sell our home. It's a 6-bedroom home, it's just my wife and I, and we just don't need that much space. And so, you know, we're looking to downsize. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's great to have the park right next door. You know, we've enjoyed that tremendously. But yet, you know, we are encroaching on city property, and so kind of in a predicament here, and that's kind of the history. And as far as the culvert goes, that was put in before we moved in. And from my understanding in talking with Jason, the previous owner, who was Jay Meister, negotiated with the city because the city wanted an easement to put that culvert in between our home and the home to the south of us. And so at that time, he somehow negotiated 37.5 feet of shoreline because he didn't own any shoreline at that point in time. But yet, he was maintaining, you know, roughly I would say 100 feet of shoreline. And the city gave him 37.5 feet. Now, why he didn't ask for more than 37.5 feet, I don't know, because he maintained much more than that. And so, right now, I probably have 2 docks on city property, and you know, our swimming area for our grandkids is kind of in between those 2 docks, and there's a small beach right in front of the retaining wall. And so, that's kind of how it's set up right now.
Your Honor.
Yeah, Rod.
Brian, I walked down there last night, got some wood ticks. And I don't know if they were city wood ticks or your wood ticks, but they were encroaching on me. But I noticed that someone is building a very large dock. Now we have a red area outlined on our map, but there's someone building a large dock and occupying an area which is another 100 feet to the east of the area we're talking about. So is that, do you know who's doing that?
That would be my neighbor to the south, but you know, I have nothing to do with that.
So there's another neighbor that's
You know, if you-
taking
if
up
you
some,
walk- if
they
you
have a
walk the park-
camping area there and it looks like they're setting up shop there pretty much.
You know, if you walk the park on the south side of the public access, there are trails through there, and there was another gentleman, I think Jerry Bermel, who had received permission from the city to put a dock in and kind of a little sitting area. My neighbor had done the same thing. It's open to the public to use. It's just, you know, a little area down there that anybody who's walking through the trails of the park could stop and, you know, have a little bonfire if they wanted to or whatever.
Sure. So I just wanted to clarify that. So, Your Honor, you know, I've had similar things with land, and I think that we have 3 options, but I think the 4th option is to vacate, basically. That is, this is city property. Okay, so number 1, I think even if the city gave the right to build the wall, that didn't include the right to occupy the property. It's just a right to build a wall there. It might benefit you in terms of your use of your property next to the city property. And I think it'd be ridiculous to try to tear out that wall. I looked at it, and that would be an exercise in futility. So I don't see why we can't ask Mr. Carlson to vacate the property and allow the city and the residents to use that property, because there is more encroachment going on there now. So there are different areas. And it's fine. I know there's an area to the east in Godell Park where the landowner has had a dock and an area there and has encouraged the city to use it, or the public. And I know the city doesn't mow that area, but he's mowed it. But that doesn't give them the rights to own it, or, you know, to begin putting up lots of structures there, because there's also liability with that for the city, which we have to accept. So either we sell the land, in my opinion, or we ask you to vacate it, and you can use that wall, and just like a public person could, but you have no special right to that area, in my opinion. You know, I think that's the fairest thing that we can do. So I regret, and I also would like us just to immediately direct the staff and/or a surveyor, Anderson, to resurvey, to reset those stakes, so we know exactly where we're at, because we don't right now. The stakes have been removed by the work that was done, I believe, at some point. So, you know, I think we have to take some steps here to clarify it. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a big mess of precedent setting, giving away property and/or doing things that don't make any sense. So it's our property. Let's survey it exactly. Stop the sale. Don't sell it until we know where the line is, and then let the owners, the new owners, know. Otherwise, we're going to have another layer on here of new owners who think that they get to use that property, but they don't. It's not legally done that way unless we want to write a legal agreement.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation, that we take those steps. We survey it, we ask you to vacate, and then we make it clear to the public with signage that this is a city park. Because it isn't clear over there when you start walking which land you're on. And I think that's another problem we have.
Yeah,
is
I
that
mean,
the
if anybody
signage
was
isn't
walking.
there at all.
Yeah,
You
if
know,
anybody
whether
was
it's a
walking
boundary
through
on the
those
edge
woods.
or anything, city
Yeah,
land.
They would think it's private property.
Scott, do you have a comment?
I'd like to hear from Guy about the permit process and how that worked, and I think there's been some warnings about the dock over there, and then I'd like to know about the dock, I didn't know about this other dock that Rod found last night. If we could hear, could you give us some information on that, Guy?
Yeah, the permit was issued, I can't remember when, but it was for his property, not for the city property, obviously. But Rod's right, it needs to be surveyed. We've been looking at that. We checked the parcel file. There was not a survey done when the city received that property from the Godells. So it's an old parcel. I don't know if there was ever a survey done and stakes set, but we are looking into doing that. As far as the property to the east of the access parking lot and the boat access down there, we have talked to Jerry Bermel. He and quite a few neighbors on the east side there have been maintaining that area, and he did put in a dock, and he admitted to us that he had docked his boat there a couple times in error. He said, I'll never do that again, but he had never told anybody that it was for private use. He had always encouraged anybody to come in there. He's got a nice little sitting area, swimming area that he's been maintaining. He's never asked us for a dime for restitution for fuel or his time, you know, his labor there. So that we are working through the Adopt a Park program with those neighborhood people, and it's gonna be the Friends of Godell Park that maintain that area. It'll be signed, and it'll direct people to the little swimming area. So looking at possibly doing something over on the west side too, like that.
So just a follow-up, and I know that your property, you can't tell where the line, I mean, it's very, but I mean, if you look back at maps through the year, that was the easiest path to the lake, and that's why they used it, I'm sure. Where we give them 37 feet, which was not a very nice, you could spend a couple weeks cleaning it out, it'd be just as nice, but to look at it, it's a great selling point for your place, because you got a picture of it showing up, and it looks up your house, it's an awesome looking view. But I again agree with Rod, we can't, we need to vacate it, it needs to become part of the park again. The docks, I mean, I'm not in favor of the docks being put out there. I guess that means I could go out there and get myself a dock in there, clean an area, and I don't want that to start with anybody. I know what I'm involved in a land dispute right now, and I'm on the guy trying to take some land away from me, and so I know all about this. It's expensive to do this, and I hate it. So I think we just need to vacate it. We need to get the lines drawn so you can sell your property and understand how it works. That's where I'm at. So
I think it'd be good to hear from our city attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
Tonight as well. Just like
Yeah, Your Honor, I just want to further clarify to Councilman Rachel's point. Speaking with Jerry Bermel a few weeks ago now, his intention going forward is to purchase a dock and donate it to the city. So the city would be the one putting the dock in on this nice swimming area, and we were down there, and it's very nice sand beach. In return, he would like to see more signage that directs people to go that direction and utilize the area. He's out there mowing, taking out buckthorn. He's put in a bridge to gap some of the wetland areas on that side. And so it wouldn't be him putting in the dock, it would be the city that would be putting in the dock. He's wanting to purchase and donate the dock. You know, we were gonna bring it forward when the idea became more fruitful and give recognition to him for that gesture. We'll still do that, but I wanted to just clarify that it would be us that would be putting in the dock, and it would be on city property. There would be no boats that would be parking, you know, overnight at that dock or anything, but it'd be another swimming opportunity without lifeguards present for people in the public to utilize.
Your Honor, just to clarify my point, don't confuse the fact that Jerry Burnell has used that east side of the access with what I brought up. I had no problems with that. I talked to Andrew about that already, and he's not doing anything there that we're not aware of. What I'm concerned about is between going west from the access and east of your property and east of the area in question. So if you look on the map, there's a meadow that comes down, and then there's someone occupying and building a very large dock there, 2 sections, and also having a campfire and, you know, it looks like it's a family setup that, you know, they use it regularly. That's what I'm concerned about. If we're going to allow on city property to have large docks built and put out, whether it's along the river or anywhere, we're going to have a mess. And I'm just saying that has to be taken care of along with the vacating issue. And so if you want to walk down there, you'll see it clearly. It's easy to find, you know. So that I just want to clarify it. This is what I'm talking about is west of the access and east of the property in question.
Your Honor, I want to clarify myself. I was talking, I forgot about the Brunel. That's on the east side of the public access. I forgot about. The dock I'm talking about is Rod's dock. I hadn't seen that. I haven't been on the lake this year, so I hadn't seen that yet.
Not my dock.
Oh, it's your dock.
I mean, the Rod is talking about, I'm sorry.
The Rod Scene dock.
The plot thickens.
So anyway, that's where mine come from. I just don't.
It's a nice dock.
Thank you, Rod.
Well, we own it now.
We weren't aware of that dock either, so we'll definitely check into that.
All right, so do we have a motion to bring this to Monday night for discussion based on the?
Absolutely, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Yeah.
And we'll also get the input of our city attorney and make a decision on Monday night.
Yeah, and I think that just the points, and the points in that we need to discuss are, I believe, to take the survey, to vacate the property, and to deal with the other dock that's on there. Those 3 things are part of what we have to do.
You seconded that motion?
I'm seconding, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
Is it okay if I still maintain and mow that part of the, I mean, is the city going to come in and come across my property and mow and clean up the beach and do everything that I've been doing?
I think this is a city attorney question too. We have to clarify this and give you the right, so you know what to do clearly.
Take official action on Monday night.
I feel bad too, you know, about this, but I mean, I think we have to resolve it in a legally acceptable way, so, yeah.
We do have, through our insurance carrier, coverage that will allow for volunteers. So if he wants to maintain it and keep it open for public use, just as we're going to do for the east side for Jerry and the Friends of the Godell Park, that's permissible.
I would suggest then you maintain it and under that, guys. But then at some point, I think I don't know how we stop all these little like sidebar things happening, like all these little this is nothing to do with you and your particular issue, but we seem to have a number of these things crop up that we've cut these sidebar deals with people to allow somebody to have a dock here, or to have a duplex in kind of a single home zoning area. I don't know how many more of these things are going to crawl out of the woodwork. That we need to stick with the rules and not make sidebar deals with people. That's what gets us into trouble, and that's what unfortunately gets this gentleman, Mr. Carlson, into difficulty with trying to sell his property now, finding that it's not clean. And I think if there's people putting docks in it, we have to stop them. And on that one, can we remove the Herberger's signs that are on Lincoln? We removed the signs for people having garage sales and now they've got kind of a lot of similar signs on Herbergers. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to remove city residence signs for garage sales, car boot sales, then we should do the same to Herbergers, because that's not fair on the citizens. I think, if we establish rules, we've got to be equitable about how we enforce them, and not show preferences to one person or the other.
Yes, Your Honor, we, to your question, we can if they're in the right of way. If they're on private property and they have an arrangement with the private property owner,
There's
then
some near the socials camper
we'll look at,
entrance.
Jason will look at that today. I do. Just wanted to bring to your attention, on Monday night, we're going to put an item on the agenda. I talked to Councilmember Speedall late in the day yesterday about this, pursuing a West Central Initiative Community Change Makers Grant. And I don't know if you want to give 10 seconds right now, or if we'll just put it on the agenda for Monday night.
It's on the agenda. If anyone wants to ask me, they can ask me more about it. It's a grant, it's not a matching, but it'll help us go forward with some of our planning, so.
Yep. We can discuss that on Monday night. Anything else coming before the council? We're adjourned. Andrew, you taking off today?
Thank you.
Yes.